How's it going, everyone? My name is Derek Afasi. I'm the owner of Afasi Financial Group and RetireSharp.com. Today's topic I want to discuss with you thrift savings plan retirement for dummies. And I don't wish to offend anybody, with this title. I just want this video to be meant for that individual that says, okay, I think I have something known as a thrift savings plan. I'm a federal employee and I want to find out strategies that work most effective if I'm trying to accumulate my monies, and then also more importantly, when it comes time for retirement, how to take monies from this TSP so that I could accomplish my specific retirement goal successfully. Now, a thrift savings plan is very similar to the most common type of retirement plan offered to private employees, which is known as a 401k. So the difference between a TSP and a 401k is a thrift savings plan is offered to federal employees, a 401k is offered to private employees. So these are private institutions. There's also some age limits as well that it's a little bit more favorable on the thrift savings plan aspect. But ultimately, what are both of these trying to accomplish? And what it's trying to accomplish is allowing an individual that's working for a specific company or entity to take a portion of their salary and place it into a type of retirement bucket, something that's going to grow for your retirement years that an individual is able to leverage for their retirement years. So if an individual is getting paid a salary of, let's say, $100,000, and they're offered a thrift savings plan because they're a federal employee, and they say, okay, I want to put 5% of my salary into my thrift savings plan, well, that shows that this individual is placing $5,000 into that plan for the year. So that's not necessarily the only thing that grows this bucket. Yes, the contributions, if you're making consistent contributions, that's going to grow that bucket. But the caveat to this is also the percentage rate that's going to come back that could add compound interest to this bucket as well. And what I mean by this is you're going to have different options. You're going to have, about 5 to 20 different options. With this thrift savings plan, they're going to be tied to some sort of passive strategy, some sort of passive mutual funds or fixed accounts that you could allocate your monies towards. So like if somebody goes and they're putting in $5,000 a year and they have them invested all within the G fund that's paying a fixed percentage rate, well then they understand that they're going to always receive a gain within this bucket. It's going to be the contributions are going to grow this bucket, that fixed percentage rate are going to grow this bucket, so that bucket's going to grow larger and larger and larger throughout the end of the year, throughout the end of the day, throughout the end of the year. The problem with this is the G fund is paying such low interest rates. So therefore, individuals start to say, well, I've heard great things about the stock market. Let me go and invest it into, my other funding options, in between my 5 to 20 different options available to me. I'm going to go and invest my monies into something known as the C fund, which are going to be more of common type stocks. So it's going to be primarily equity-based mutual funds. So let's say if an individual ties their savings plan to a more aggressive equity-based type strategy, and the market does well, they're going to receive a positive interest credit to their thrift savings plan. So their bucket's going to grow by the contributions that the individuals is making, and then plus whatever this interest credit comes back at. So we understand if someone's placing dollars into that bucket and they're in a fixed type account like the G fund, well then whatever they're placing in there is going to grow that bucket because this percentage rate is always going to be a positive fixed percentage rate. The problem that lies with throwing it all within those fixed type contracts or that fixed type allocation is you could run the risk of inflationary risk. So this is that whole concept of why an individual doesn't want to just save all their money and hide it underneath a mattress is because the cost of goods and services are going to be increasing each and every year. So it's a rule of thumb, inflation is going to increase by on the low end about 3% per year, on the high end about 4% per year. And inflation is tricky because you could have some years where inflation is not there. You don't see an increase in the cost of goods and services, and then all of a sudden you see a large uptick out of nowhere. So it's not like you're just seeing a gradual 3%, 3%, 3%. You could have 0% inflation and then all of a sudden get hit with a 5% of inflation in a given year. But on average, to prepare for it is you want to successfully receive about a 3 to 4% as a minimum rate of return off of your account so you do not fall victim to that inflationary risk. Because an individual could go and keep saving their dollars, saving their dollars, saving their dollars. Just like in 1990, individuals that retired lost over 40% of their purchasing power by 2010. And it was because of that concept of inflationary risk. Basically, the cost of goods and services were increasing, even though these individuals were on a fixed income. They now had to change their lifestyle in retirement because they couldn't go back to work. They were too old to go back to work, and basically too frail to go back to work. The individuals were losing to that inflationary risk concept. The other side is more of that equity-based model, and this is why individuals, they say, I want to go with the other funding options available in my thrift savings plan, ones that are tied to the market, ones that are tied to a mixture of stocks, of bonds, of my different options that might have like an 80% allocation into stocks and a 20% allocation into bonds. So you could pick and choose which route would be most suitable for your individual needs. Some individuals say, I'm not a risk taker. I just want to see a fixed percentage rate, and that might be fine going into the G fund, but they understand that there's going to be that inflationary risk associated with it. If they go into the other options, more of those variable type accounts, well, then they fall victim to something known as market risk. And let me clear up the screen real quick. And market risk was very apparent in 2008 when individuals said, you know what, from 1980 through 2000, I saw extremely great gains with my accounts. I'm just going to let it ride. I have faith in the market. Let me just keep my money in that C fund type aspect, and everything should work itself out. Well, what they didn't do was they didn't scale down. Typically, the rule of thumb is that when you start working, when you're in your earlier years, in your 30s and your 40s, you could take on more aggressive, more risk because you have a longer time horizon. If someone's going to retire at age 65 and they're 40 years old and the market takes a dip, well, they have those extra 25 years to recapture back all those different gains. So when somebody is now, let's say, age 63, and they still stay consistent with that risk, well, if the market has a decrease, well, you only have 2 years to try to recapture that back up. And then right when you want to retire, you're starting to pull money from an account that could potentially go down, that you're also paying fees on, and you're also having that longevity risk, you're having that inflationary risk that's compounding against it as well, and that's where you could see a retirement disaster take place. So that rule of thumb is to say, okay, I'm going to be more aggressive in my earlier years because I could take that risk, but then I want to make sure that I'm reallocating things, that as the closer that I get into my 50s, I want to make sure that these are more conservative, meaning more towards funds that are not going to be tied to that stock market volatility. In 2008, you had individuals that lost 50%, some over 50% of their portfolios, all within that 1 year. So if an individual walked into the year with $500,000 and then they walked out of the year with $250,000, that's something that's going to change your lifestyle. That's not a lot. That's not something of saying, okay, well, I walked into the year 500,000, I walked out of the year with 490,000. That's something that you could still prepare for. That's something that's not really going to change your lifestyle that much. When you take a large hit, due to that downward market losses and due to that reverse dollar cost averaging effect of paying the fees, of receiving that downward market loss, when it comes time to retire, well, now you have to retire off of $250,000 bucket as opposed to that $500,000 bucket. So you just always want to be mindful of, okay, which point am I at right now? How close am I to retirement? What exactly is your retirement number, so that you could plan successfully and you could try to actually plan out a strategy that correlates to your individual needs. So a very common example that occurs is, let's say an individual is currently age 60 and they're still working for that federal agency, and they say, okay, I know for sure that I want to retire at age 65. I want to stop working at age 65. What they typically do is they say, I'm going to leave my money in this TSP fund, in my TSP plan, and I'm just going to try to really pick out whatever the best allocations are. Now, the problem with the thrift savings plan is you're limited with the funding options that you have available. And yes, they're going to be cheap options, but typically you're getting what you pay for. So you have crappier options available when it's through that thrift savings plan. If you're below the age of 60, well, you might be subject to just trying to pick out what the best what the best available strategy is to really grow that account until, that retirement age. If you hit age 60 or age 59 and a half, the government allows individuals to take, it's known as an in-service withdrawal, and take a portion, if not all, of their TSP monies and segment them into properly designed IRA contracts. Why exactly is that beneficial? Why exactly would someone do that? Why would somebody take their TSP and roll it over into an IRA? Well, it all depends upon what their goal is. If this individual, let's say, is age 60, and they say, I want to retire at age 65, I have $500,000 that's currently sitting in my thrift savings plan account, and I have a certain income goal at age 65. Maybe I'm going to try to take Social Security a little bit earlier and trigger that at age 65. Maybe I'll be getting a pension from the federal government as well at age 65. And then I want to make sure that I'm siphoning out the correct dollar amount from my thrift savings plan that will correlate exactly to whatever that gap is. So the number one goal to plan for is your income. If you have that ideal retirement age at 65, and let's say with this scenario, this person has no other retirement savings. They have just some money into, savings account, checking account, but basically as a retirement plan goes, they have this $500,000 in their savings plan. What happens is, let's say after doing a budgeting analysis, they understand that their expenses currently are, let's just say that they're sitting at 60 grand, but in retirement, these expenses at age 65, some are going to be reduced and it's going to be right around $50,000. Let's say at age 65, this individual is going to be receiving Social Security income of $30,000, and then they're also going to be receiving pension income, as a hypothetical example, of $10,000. What this tells us is that at age 65, their goal is $50,000 of income that they need to suffice. This tells us that they already receive guaranteed income sources of $40,000. So what is there a gap of? $10,000. So what a person can do at age 65, because they've hit that age, that basically that the age requirement, that qualification that allows them to take a portion of their thrift savings plan, they could go and roll that over into a specifically designed IRA contract that will produce them with a 5-year deferral, produce them guaranteed lifetime income. And they could use that through leveraging insurance companies through the form of their annuities, in particular their hybrid annuity contract, which allows them to receive guaranteed lifetime income based upon the claims paying ability of the insurance company, and God forbid if something happens to them and they passed away, whatever's remaining in the account value would go to the beneficiaries. So in this really quick example, let's say I have this $500,000, it's only going to be a requirement of $150,000 to place into a specifically designed IRA annuity contract for a 5-year deferral that will produce them $10,000 of income. So this tells us that we didn't just let it ride. We didn't just leave it within those TSP funds and have it fall victim to that reverse dollar cost averaging effect. What you did was you set up a systematic strategy that says 150,000, I'm segmenting that into a contract today to receive that income, that guaranteed $10,000 of income at my age 65. So that day that I hit age 65, this is when I want to call it quits. I'm going to trigger my Social Security income. I'm going to trigger my pension income, and then you could trigger your annuity income. Out of this 150,000, let's say this person is, just for really easy math purposes, let's say that they only live for 2 years, and God forbid they come down with an ailment, they pass away at age 67, and there's nothing happening with their accounts, that they just drew down 10,000, so now you have $100,000 sitting into that IRA annuity contract. Because we're using a hybrid annuity, we're using something known as an income rider, this 130,000 would still be left over to the beneficiaries. So what we're doing is we're scaling down. We're saying, what is the smallest amount of dollars out of this lump sum that we could place into a specifically designed income producing vehicle that will be tacked onto that individual's life. So something that will correlate exactly to that individual's life, that says that till age 60, they're going to trigger at age 65. If this person lives to 120 years old, that income's still going to still come to them. If this person passes away before their break-even point, whatever's remaining in their account value would go to the beneficiaries. So that's what correlates to that income, that income phase. And what do we do? On this concept, that really easy fix, now we have $350,000 left over in the thrift savings plan that we did not touch. So we only utilize the smallest amount of dollars and only as much as necessary to accomplish that income goal. That's important because you have a lot of advisors out there. What they try to do is take the full 500 and they say, hey, yeah, this is going to give you $10,000, but if you took 500,000 and put it into an annuity, that's going to be giving you an extra $30,000, an extra $35,000. And if your goal does not correlate to that extra $35,000 income need, yes, it will give you more income, but you don't want to just throw all your money into an annuity. You only want to leverage the correct portion into that specifically designed IRA annuity contract. So we have the number one goal is the income sources. We had 500,000, and we said it's going to be a requirement, and this is all hypothetical, 150,000 that's going to produce them the $10,000 of income. They're receiving 30,000 in Social Security, 10,000 in pension income, 10,000 in the IRA annuity income. And the reason why it has to be in an IRA is because the thrift savings plan is something known as pre-tax. So this is monies that you never paid tax on. So when you go and you do the rollover, it's going from a thrift savings plan, which is a qualified retirement account, to a traditional IRA, which is another qualified retirement account. So when you do that rollover, it's not like you're paying taxes on that 150 and then it's going into the IRA. What you're doing is you're just rolling over. It's a type of transfer from a qualified to a qualified, so that each time that you're taking out that $10,000, that's when you're going to have to pay tax on. These are monies. There's no way to get around that tax. Uncle Sam needs his money any which way. It's just you want to make sure that you're doing it effectively. Some mistakes that we see is an individual says, oh, it's going to be 150,000. Let me just go and take that money, throw it into my checking account, and then I'll write a check to the insurance company. And that is, you're entirely shooting yourself in the foot, because that individual has to therefore pay taxes of 150 grand all within that one shot. When you do a rollover, what you're doing is you're keeping it within the qualifications, the qualified to qualified type accounts. The second aspect of making sure that you are planning for your retirement, you're at least having confidence in retirement, is planning for an emergency fund. So rule of thumb is that an individual is supposed to keep about 6 to 12 months of their expenses in savings into something that's liquid, meaning something that they could easily access. So if we use 150,000 into an IRA annuity, and we have 350,000 left over, and we said that this person has a goal of $50,000 of expenses in a given year, well then, in this example, we could use $50,000 and roll that over into an IRA cash position or IRA money market account. So something that's not going to gain interest, barely any interest because interest rates are so low right now, but something that if they ever came to that oh my gosh moment, that a tree comes and falls to their house, they need repairs, or they have some sort of health ailment that they need to spend money for, they have this bucket sitting there. So what do? We now used 200,000 out of that 500,000. We preserved those monies at that age 60. We didn't wait till age 65 to therefore figure it out. What we said is we're going to leverage our age right now. We're going to leverage what are the best deferred contracts right now and make sure that we're scaling it across appropriately. 150,000 went to the IRA annuity. $50,000 went to the IRA money market account. So now what do we have? We have $300,000 left over. And this is where inflationary protection comes in. And you could tackle this in two different aspects. You could use this where individuals could leverage like annuity laddering strategies where they're taking micro portions of that 300,000, and what they're doing is they're scaling it up and they're saying, okay, well, my expenses for at age 65, maybe $40,000 are going to be fixed expenses and $10,000 are going to be inflationary type expenses. What we're going to do is every few years, maybe this goal has to be increased to $53,000 at age 67, and then by age 70 there's going to be $55,000 of an income goal. You could either tackle this by making sure that you're setting up laddering strategies off of annuity contracts, or you could set up your monies to be more on a tactical type approach. Rather than letting it ride with the limited funding options, with those very inexpensive, cheap funding options through the thrift savings plan, an individual could utilize the $300,000 and place it into tactical money management to make sure that they are correlating exactly to their goal. They're trying to have good market gains when the market goes up, but they're making sure that they're protecting their nest egg if the market goes down. So rather than take that guess and say, okay, I'm just going to let it ride with the market, what a tactical type approach does is it allows somebody to have monitoring on their accounts every day and place them with the best possible mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds. So instead of those 5 to 20 different options through the thrift savings plan, what they do is they roll over that remaining 300,000 into what correlates to their risk tolerance, and now you have thousands of different options available to them that's going to correlate to what the best recommendations are to say, okay, if we see certain indicators, certain economic indicators, we see certain indicators in the market, we're going to make sure to scale down your monies. If let's say we're seeing that the waters are clear, well, then we're going to be more aggressive because all of our indicators are showing that, it makes more sense to leave your dollars into a higher aggressive type strategy. So it's more of you're taking a tactical hands-on approach, or that's what the advisor would be doing, rather than just saying, oh, well, let it ride. Yep, it's in the market does well, great. If the market does poor, oh, well. You want to just make sure that it's more on a systematic strategy. What happens with the thrift savings plan is more on a passive type approach, where you're limited on how much growth potential you could place your dollars into unless you're truly monitoring that account yourself, and you're reading up and you're learning all these different aspects of what's going on with the market and how to read market trends and different things like that. So that's why, our typical recommendation is for that individual that's looking to retire, currently age 60, they want to retire at age 65. We're utilizing 150 in that example because that was the best one that came back into an IRA annuity account. And understand these IRA annuity accounts, like the annuity, it's not just like a random annuity contract that you're seeing through like a television commercial and then you're calling up that agency. It's going to correlate exactly to what your age is, exactly to what your deferral growth is, whether you want to have single life income, whether you want to have joint life income with you and your spouse, depending upon where area, what state that you're in. Each state is going to be different. It has to be appropriate to your exact situation. So that will be the top recommendation there. The $50,000 in that money market example is just going to say that your liquid cash. It's not, if the market goes down, this is going to be unaffected. Now, and then you have the remaining 300,000, which we typically recommend in a tactical type approach to really grow your types of accounts. Now, you could place it into different indexing type strategies, ones that gain when the market goes up, does not lose when the market goes down, or you could take a portion of it, throw it more into variable-based accounts to make sure that you're also have those advisors that are monitoring that account appropriately, of saying, we have market trends that the market's going to be having a decrease, so you want to just protect yourself at all times. So rather than a question mark or just saying, yeah, I'll worry about that plan when I get to it and just leave my money in the TSP, if you hit that age 60, you're eligible to go and roll over and to set up an actual plan. Different eligibility requirements if you severed employment. So like, let's say if somebody was working for a federal agency and they quit working there and now they're working for a new company, a private company, they have access with the old TSP account to therefore roll it over. Let's say if somebody is 55 years old and they say, okay, I just retired from my federal agency, you have an access to, or even if you're in your 60s, you have access to those thrift savings plan monies now that you could roll it over appropriately into whatever the top three strategies would be. But what we're not doing is taking that approach of saying, okay, the thrift savings plan, let's roll it over all 100% into a money market account. Let's roll it over 100% onto an annuity. Let's roll it 100% into tactical money management. You want to make sure that you're segmenting it out properly so that you're able to leverage each piece appropriately. So it's taking that 30,000 foot view. Where are you right now? Where do you want to go? And how do you get there most effectively? So if you found value in this video, feel free to give our 1-800 number a call at any time. It's 1-800-566-1002. We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when calling over, what you can expect is you're going to speak to an assistant. That assistant's going to ask you, okay, what are you calling in for? You might say, I saw, different videos or listen to a radio show or whatever on the thrift savings plan, retirement plan, either for dummies or whichever video you watched. And they're going to make sure that you're patched over to a specialist that handles your particular area. Based upon, what that specialist is going to ask you, is going to try to uncover, where are you right now? Where are you trying to get to? Do you need income? Is that important to you? Is that something that, you want to make sure that you're leveraging? Or is your Social Security and pension income going to correlate to your goals appropriately, where you don't need to leverage, insurance-based contracts such as an annuities, and you could place more dollars into your fund monies, more into emergency type funds? What is your exact situation? Can you get to your situation of what you're doing right now, or is there a gap in your plan? If there's a gap, there might be some recommendations that specialist is going to make for you and show you what the appropriate plan of action will be. We're an independent agency, so we're not captive whatever you tell us, company XYZ is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. So because we're able to leverage all these different companies, we work for the client, we don't work for the companies. So it just makes it a little bit more powerful than when you're walking into a captive type agency, or, an agency that just sells mutual funds, or an agency that just sells life insurance, or just sells annuities, and you're going to see that they're going to try to push that type of product. We work specifically for the client, and we deal on a national basis. So we are A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. We've always had very good reviews. We've never had any complaints. I believe it's because of our methodical process of making sure education is first and foremost. And hopefully, if we educate you the correct way, then we could earn your business. But at the end of the day, I really hope that you found value in this. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.